Hey everybody. Hope you are doing okay this week. I have a little flip grid that I'm gonna have you guys do after this that tells me a little bit about how your week's going so far. But obviously it's gonna be a little bit different. It's gonna be a little bit of a transition for all of us during this time, but I know we're in it together. I appreciate all of your flexibility with everything, and we're looking forward to trying this. We'll see how this goes over the next couple weeks. I'm going to tell you a couple of things that I expect from you over the next couple of weeks for online learning in my class. And then today I'm actually going to teach you a little bit about something called the Gupta Empire in India, which I'll get to in just a little bit. So kind of for my class, what I expect from you is one, and first and foremost, check Google Classroom every day. I won't post things on Google Classroom every single day, but there are certain days that I will be posting things for social studies for you to complete. So just check it every day is a good rule of thumb just for all of the classes, just to make sure that there's no new updates. Anytime that you're going to be given a link in my classroom to something else, whether it's Edpuzzle or Flipgrid or things that we've used in class before, typically you're always going to be signing in with Google. So if you just click in the sign in with Google option, that should get you logged into almost everything. If you have trouble logging into anything, just email me and then we can figure that out. Just be patient, be flexible. Your teachers, we're trying this for the first time. I know a lot of you are trying a lot of these things for the very first time with the device. So I promise that we will get through it together. And if we have any struggles along the way, we can figure those out. Please know how to email me. If you need me to send you a video of how to send an email, or if you need to ask someone at home how to compose an email. I know we don't use email very often in class, but during the next few weeks here, this is going to be a time that we definitely want to use email if you have any questions. My email is right here on the slide. It's also on the Google Classroom page. You can look at it through the website of Port Clinton's website. So anytime you need to email me, that's totally fine. I will respond to you as soon as possible. Just please stay in contact with me if you're having concerns. Don't just let it sit there. Or if you just need to say hello, or if you're struggling for something, just send me a message through email, and I will definitely get back to you. Grades are going to be taken throughout the online learning. This is not just time where we are taking a break. So just make sure you're staying on top of everything. Keep up hard working. If you fall behind, you just got to stay in contact with us so we know. But we will be taking grades and we'll be posting them on Progress Book. So just make sure that you're checking Progress Book, checking out things that you might be missing, and so that we're not falling too far behind. If you stay on pace with the schedule that we've provided for each week and what classes to focus on, you should be okay. Just stay checking Google Classroom and try your best to keep on staying on track here. So what we've been talking about recently is all about ancient India, and we were actually almost through ancient India. So far, we've talked about some locations in India that are important. We know where they settled. They settled near the Indus River because it was the best river to settle by, because of the fertile soil, but also the reliable floods, kind of like Egypt's river that we talked about. We also looked at some of the artifacts that they had in Mohenjo-Daro, which is one of the ancient cities, and kind of how they don't know a whole lot about ancient India, but they do know some of the information that they have found from the artifacts that archaeologists have discovered. So that's kind of how we know a lot of that, the information that we know today. And then most recently, obviously, we've been talking about the caste system of India, which is, pretty much their social structure. We got the Brahmins at the top, which are the priests. We've got the untouchables at the bottom. And then, in the upper middle class, we have the Kshatriyas, the warriors and rulers. We have the merchants, and then the farmers are the biggest caste. We kind of been working through the caste system right before we had all this craziness happen. You guys were working on your caste system cards. We'll kind of push that to the side here for a little bit. But we're going to keep plugging through with India. The final topic that we're going to talk about with India is what I'm going to talk about today, which is called the Gupta Empire. So this is going to be a time period. When you say the word empire, it's typically a time period that you're talking about that has some type of significance to it that makes it all these different categories fall into the same one. So with the Gupta Empire, this one's pretty cool because this is the time where they had tons of accomplishments. So when we talk about our grandma letters with government and religion and social structure and culture and food source, economy and technology, that last letter, technology, is where we're all going to be focused on the Gupta Empire. So with the Gupta Empire, you'll see, if you look at the legend here in the corner, I'm not sure if you can see my screen here. as far as my cursor here. But if you're looking at the map of India here, you can see that the Gupta Empire covers almost all of ancient India. So it just was a powerhouse empire where there was just a lot of things happening, but there was also a ton of accomplishments happening at that time. So the Gupta Empire, a lot of times they call it the Golden Age of India. This took place actually in the 5th century CE, so it's a little bit further into further past ancient India, and it's kind of moving into a little bit more of not modern day India, but just a little bit less historical. But historians are going to call this the Golden Age because it's the time of just great wealth and many achievements and inventions. And in a second here, I'm going to kind of break down each achievement and kind of tell you some of the cool things that the Gupta Empire people did. So the first achievement they had was universities, and of course I threw the BG symbol on there just to kind of represent that. So it's kind of cool. Some of the universities that they had were Hindu, some were Buddhist, which we know were the two religions that were formed in India. Schools in the beginning were just open to males. Although every now and then they would allow daughters of teachers to attend. In school, back in the Gupta Empire, they mostly learned religion, math, astronomy, chemistry, and writing. And there was also some special arts that they could study. Some kind of cool things, like there was actually students who studied medicine even back then, which is then showing how this is starting to evolve a little bit. They even learned how to make some cures, and kind of most interestingly, they actually used claws of giant ants sometimes to stitch up wounds. So if you think about some of the stuff that we use for medicine, this is obviously way more advanced, or we are way more advanced than the ancient people were, but they obviously used what they had to kind of work through their medicine there. With literature, that's just a fancy word for reading and writing. The Guptas wrote many types of literature. They did poetry, stories, folk tales. So that kind of shows that they had ability to, find ways to entertain themselves. They created plays, they had drama, comedies, so they had ways of making people laugh. It says large audiences gathered to watch the plays. A lot of these were about Hinduism and a lot about the gods and religion that they would base their writing and reading off of. And the most famous one was about Aladdin and his magic lamp, which that you probably have heard of before, but that was actually inspired by a Gupta folktale that they had done back in historic times. The third achievement is going to be in the field of painting. Paintings were definitely a sign of wealth. Almost all people that were wealthy had paintings in their homes. They were done in rich, bright colors, red, purple, green. So we're starting to see some more color evolve as time moves on. Mostly the paints were made from minerals and clay, so some of the natural materials that they had in their ground. And then a lot of the paintings were focused on the life of Buddha. Again, so Hinduism and Buddhism are shaping a lot of these achievements back then, especially because, obviously we're focused on India, which is where all those religions started. Achievement 4 is going to be sculpture. So we've seen sculptures with a lot of the different civilizations that we've done this year. Obviously with Mesopotamia and Egypt, we've seen different temples and things built. So they're doing some of that similar stuff in India here at the Gupta Empire. They created statues out of stone, wood, bronze. Again, Buddha, a lot of statues you probably have seen a Buddha statue before. Some god statues of Hinduism. They typically showed humans in a very simple way and very graceful. So it was all kind of about peace. And some statues were made so that they could even stand on their own, and others were kind of carved into the walls. Almost like, if you remember, we have statues in Egypt that they had found, but then they also had the temples in Egypt that they were carving into, like Ramses temple that we had talked about. So similar achievements happening here in the Gupta Empire. This one's pretty interesting. So one of their fifth achievement was in metalwork. So we've talked about working with metal with different civilizations in the past, but kind of cool. They had these different gold and copper coins that they were using, and they engraved the coins with the faces of the Gupta rulers, which is kind of similar almost to how we use our money and our coins and things today, because we have the faces of a lot of important people, presidents and things onto our currency. So back then they were actually kind of doing something similar. They also worked really well with iron. They had this huge iron pillar that they actually created that was made out of solid iron, 25 feet tall, 13,000 pounds, kind of like me after some pizza. Except for the tall part, I just mostly get bigger. But anyway, so the pillar talked about all the achievements of the Gupta Emperor, and it's still rust-free after 1,600 years. So kind of a pretty cool thing that they have left behind, out of the Gupta Empire. So very, very strong at working with metals and iron. So math is the next one, which I always like because I also went to school for math. So I always think it's kind of cool when I see how math evolved over time. So in math, some of the things that they did, they created they at least enhanced the decimal system, made it a little bit more improved to what it was. They were the first people to treat zero as a number. That's something that they finally recognized zero as a number. They were the first ones to figure out that the year is exactly 365 and some change days long. So that's kind of obviously a big deal. And they're the first to discover that the size of the Earth, like the official size that they believed the Earth was, and also to realize that it's spinning on its axis. So a lot of huge things in history came out of the Gupta Empire. And the last one that we have for today is roads. So roads are something that we drive on every single day, something that we don't really we kind of take for granted, but a lot of improvements to roads and just travel were made during the Gupta Empire. So in the Gupta Empire, they created ditches and canals on the side of roads, which we still see today. They made roads out of hard-packed dirt. They created signs to help travelers to where they were going. I put some signs there on the slide here. Obviously not those exact signs, but they were starting to kind of create signs to help travelers to where they were going. So a lot of those ideas that came from roadways and how to travel came from people like the Guptas that we kind of just take for granted because we see signs all the time. They had rest stops, they had houses along the road so that you could have a place to stop. So if you've ever been driving around the roads or if you've gone on a family trip, they have the different restways on the rest stops and different places you can eat and take a drink or whatever, just to take a break. They started to kind of create that type of method in the Gupta Empire. And then finally, obviously roads are going to benefit trade. We talk about trade all the time with these civilizations. So we're used to talking about how they traded on water and kind of travel from place to place, but roads, once those started to get improved, obviously moving from place to place is so much easier. So that's a little bit about the Gupta Empire. They call it the Golden Age because it is the top age of achievement in India. A lot of cool things happening for the very first time. So this is very technology centered. So that will be what we kind of talked about here. So I've attached this slideshow to your Google Classroom if you need to look back at any of the slides. Hopefully you've done okay with the questions that I've put throughout this video on the Ed Puzzle. Again, if you have any questions throughout the next couple of weeks here, email me, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. I promise I will stay up to date and help you out with any way that you need. So hope you guys have a good weekend and stay safe out there and just keep working hard.